masculinity is associated with being fearless, being brave, being confident, maybe not admitting fault. And sometimes that kind of directly translates to patient care, right? If I don't go to the doctor, it's because nothing is wrong with me. I'm fine. I think that's part of the reason there, potentially.
Welcome to your daily health briefing. I'm Dr. Albert Tackett. This show is here to help you navigate the complex U.S. medical system, one step at a time. Whether you are decoding a new diagnosis, fighting for a referral, or just trying to stay informed, you are in the right place. Let's get into the science. Dr. Russ, why do men take better care of their cars than of their bodies?
So I think a lot of that is kind of wrapped up in societal norms or cultural norms. Masculinity is associated with being fearless, being brave, being confident, maybe not admitting fault. And sometimes that kind of directly translates to patient care, right? If I don't go to the doctor, it's because nothing is wrong with me. I'm fine. I think that's part of the reason there, potentially.
So if I don't go to the doctor, it means I'm fine.
Nothing's wrong with me,
Nothing's wrong with me.
I'm fine.
Okay.
The less information that I know, the better off things are. Ignorance is sort of bliss in a sense, is what I've noticed.
Okay. So do you think it's because men are afraid of the doctor or they're afraid of what the doctor might find?
I think both of those things. Afraid of what the doctor might find. I, look at my own personal friend group. I'm in my mid-30s, and I have a lot of male friends who are even physicians, and they don't go to the doctor as well. They think, I'm young, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm fine. What purpose is there in going to the physician?
Even physicians?
Even physicians.
Wow.
They're so busy taking care of everyone else that they forget to take care of themselves and do kind of basic preventive things, just such as, having a checkup with their doctor.
So it's more of a question of male invincibility.
I think that's the underlying crux of the situation.
Okay.
What about you as a physician? What do you see in your patients?
Well, I go to the doctor.
Thank you for doing so. Me too.
Well, what I see in my patients is actually what I just asked you. And this reminds me of one of my patients, was a relatively young guy, 51, and hadn't been to the doctor for about 10 years. And he told me that it was simply because he was busy with work. And he also said the crucial statement. Doc, I felt fine, so I didn't think I needed to go to the doctor. And then he woke up one morning and couldn't move the right side of his body. Went to the hospital. Long story short, he had a hemorrhagic stroke. And so when he came to see me, I asked him, why didn't you go to the doctor? It was 10 years. And he, gave me the answer I just mentioned. But again, he also added that, he was busy with life. He had bills, he had a family, he was raising kids and all of that. And so it struck me that a lot of times it is not that people don't care. They might have competing priorities that take precedence over going to the doctor.
Yeah.
But then that leads us into the science part of this. And before we do that, actually, have you had any patient with catastrophic outcomes from this sort of neglect?
Patients, family members, especially young people, I've noticed a lot more. Uncontrolled hypertension ending up with strokes, and that causing kind of a number of adverse consequences, including death. I've seen people in my family in their 20s die from hypertension,
In their
20s. Males die from high blood pressure and die from pulmonary embolisms. And so it really brings up a good point that you mentioned. It's so important to go to the doctor, right? Because hypertension is something that is something that can be managed and something that is preventable in a sense. And so it's really important to go to your physician.
So let's go through the list. Let's start with high blood pressure. Why is that particularly dangerous for a man who's sort of neglecting his health and prioritizing other things.
Right, because it's something that you don't feel, right? And so when you start to feel it or when it starts to become a problem, that's usually in a crisis state where your blood pressure is so high that it's putting you at risk for end organ ischemia or end organ, death, if you will, to those, or damage to those tissues. And so, that's when your blood pressure is, 190 over, 110 or over that. But just chronic hypertension over time puts you at risk for a number of things, right? Heart issues, heart failure. It puts you at risk for kidney dysfunction. It puts you at risk for coronary artery disease. And so those things are all happening kind of in the background, and you may not realize that they're happening.
So let me understand something. You make a good point there. Because patients will ask me, Doc, or they will tell me, I stopped taking my blood pressure medicine. I'm like, why? Well, I felt you gave it to me. I took it for a month. My blood pressure got better. Then I stopped because I thought we had fixed the problem. But what you are saying is the patient is waiting for symptoms. That symptom might be a stroke, heart failure, kidney damage requiring dialysis. That is when blood pressure becomes symptomatic, when it causes symptoms. But you are saying that the patient has high blood pressure, it's not taking his medicine, that damage is already happening in the background.
Exactly.
It has not just become manifest.
Exactly, right. So that damage is continuing to happen. And when you start to see symptoms, that is a sign that there is a problem. But you can't dictate which problem you actually get, right? Are you going to be someone who gets a hemorrhagic stroke that you can't emergently evacuate and you end up with chronic brain damage and such that you're not functioning anymore? You don't get to pick the consequences of what happens. So it's important to manage things before they get to a point where it's a problem.
Wow. All right, let's shift gears. Silent killer number 2, diabetes.
So I say diabetes is so complex, right? Because it affects every organ system. And it's, again, one of those things that you don't realize it's happening until it's a problem. So I say diabetes is, insulin resistance or insulin desensitization in a sense, right? Insulin gets released when we're eating foods that increase our blood sugar, and insulin tells our cells to put the sugar back into the cells because that's our driver for function and for energy. And so over time, right, if you're constantly eating foods that sort of raise your glycemic index and you're releasing insulin all the time, those cells just become desensitized to it, right? And then they don't take sugar up into the cells. And then it's floating around and it has to attach somewhere, and so it sort of binds to proteins, builds up in our blood vessels. That is what can contribute to diabetic neuropathy.
So that is also damage that happens underlying, and the man who's not going to the doctor has no idea it's going on.
Exactly. You don't even see those symptoms. And so by the time you do go to the doctor, maybe you're in the pre-diabetic range and you say, oh, well, that's okay. I don't have diabetes yet. That's already a problem, right? Those cells are already becoming dysregulated and starting to become desensitized. And if you don't fix the issue now, change your diet, change your activity, it is a strong precursor to developing diabetes down the line.
And what are the consequences of diabetes? Like, what are the 3 most feared consequences of having undiagnosed and, of course, untreated diabetes?
Yeah, damage to your vision.
That's blindness.
Exactly, blindness. No one wants to end up with that. Damage to your limbs, leading to necrosis, needing to be, tissue death and limbs needing to be amputated. That's an issue. And kidney dysfunction, pardon me. Yeah. Dialysis.
That's one of the top 2 leading causes of kidney dialysis, basically, together with high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all of these things, I say, can be preventable, right? These are modifiable things. Like, yes, there's some genetic component to diabetes, but a lot of it is, environmental, your own personal habits to prevent this.
And the man who doesn't go to the doctor because he's afraid of finding out may also be missing out on silent killer number 3, cardiovascular disease.
Oof, yeah. So when I think about cardiovascular disease and coronary artery disease, atherosclerotic plaques, damage to kind of end organs because blood flow is not getting through because those plaques are building up. I think about, visceral abdominal fat. All of these things are sort of like intertwined. And they're things that you can't necessarily feel until it's a problem, until you get a heart attack, right? But diet. So when we think about the DASH diet, the dietary approach to, stop hypertension, there's a lot of data, when you're eating vegetables, when you're eating, high fiber intake to sort of prevent or lower your risk for having the bad cholesterol and lower your blood pressure.
So in essence, the heart attack itself is just a manifestation of something that's been brewing for many years and was not addressed.
Yeah.
So the guy who's afraid to go to the doctor because he doesn't want to hear bad news winds up with the bad news, but it wasn't the doctor telling him. His body told him the bad news by way of a stroke or a heart attack.
Absolutely, right? All of these things are preventable in a sense and modifiable.
So let me ask you something else, because in all fairness to men, right, we also have to consider how men are raised. And this usually applies to men of all races. Men are raised to be providers. They're the hunters. They have to take care of everything. They have to make sure that, bills are paid. There is a roof over everybody's head. Now, I know before my daughter calls and says I'm being, old-fashioned and sexist, I'm just saying it's traditionally that's the role men are supposed to occupy in society. And so when you have this provider mentality, you and your health tend to take the back seat. So is it possible that men are just victims of the propaganda or the traditional roles that have been assigned to men?
Yeah. And again, we talked about the societal and cultural roles and expectations based on your gender, which I don't think should be the case, but men tend to be providers. And so that just means that they often sometimes end up neglecting themselves because they're so busy taking care of everyone else that they forget to take care of themselves until it poses a problem.
Okay. So how can we help men then? What are the things that we as society can do to help men take better care of their health?
Yeah. Everyone over the age of 25 needs to have a primary care doctor, and you need to have an annual checkup once a year, okay? Getting basic blood work done and kind of screening for certain diseases. I say prevention is primary care in a sense.
Okay. Again, I also have another thought that crossed my mind about this issue. And I suspect that many men are also afraid of becoming a burden. Burden to their loved ones, burden to society. So if they go to the doctor and they find out something, then someone has to take care of them instead of them being the ones taking care of others. What do you think?
Yeah, so that reminds me of one of my patients who I saw the other day, and I've been taking care of him for a couple years now. And he's like, Dr. Russ, I feel comfortable sharing this with you, but I don't feel like much of a man anymore. He's like, my life is dictated around going to doctor's appointments, and I haven't been able to do anything for my wife. I can't take her on vacation. We can't go out to have a nice dinner. One, because I'm in a lot of pain and I have a lot of medical comorbidities, if you will. And, it just makes me feel like not much of a man. And so I don't like going to the doctors because they end up telling me bad news and there are more problems to sort of address and to fix.
Now, I'll tell you what I always tell patients, because I've heard this same statement about going to the doctor and hearing bad news. And I always tell patients, you came to see me so that we don't have to give you bad news 10 years from today. That is the whole purpose of going to the doctor, prevention. And usually, most of the time, we don't give bad news. We might find something and treat it so that it doesn't become bad news in the future. What do you think?
I disagree in a sense. I often end up telling people bad news because there's structurally something that's causing their discomfort. But I say, in a sense, it's good news because we know what to target or what to treat. So it's bad news and good news at the same time. But I say not coming to me and, waiting until significantly later, right, when things get even worse. And I say there's nothing left that I can do for you. And now it's time to have a conversation with a surgeon, is also not a good thing. So in a sense, it is a good thing to come to the physician.
Okay. So in essence, what you're saying is that there is bad news and there's good news. The vast majority of time, it's good news because even when we find something, most of the time it's fixable. There are interventions that can be made for it not to become bad news.
Absolutely. No.
Okay. All right. So, Dr. Russ, as we wrap up this episode, is there one thing you can leave? If there was just one thing you would want to leave with the listeners or viewers, what would that be?
Go to the doctor. Everyone over the age of 25 should have a primary care physician. Don't be afraid to discuss what's going on. I say the more information you tell me, the more we can help you.
Awesome. Dr. Russ, thank you.
You're welcome, Dr. Tackle.
This has been the Daily Brief. Medicine is not about certainty. It is about responsibility. Decisions are often made with incomplete information, but they are always made with your safety in mind. In a system that can feel rushed and fragmented, you deserve clarity, continuity, and an advocate who sees the whole picture. I am Dr. Albert Tacken, your physician ally, high-level science, human-level care. I will see you at the next briefing, or I will see you in the clinic.